Welcome to our podcast, and by that I mean on Wednesdays we read. I'm Hannah.
I'm Laura.
And we are two best friends who are doing a deep dive into a new book series, one book at a time. Right now we are shiting on the Wheel of Time, and we are doing the fifth book in Robert Jordan's Wheel of Time series, The Fires of Heaven. Is that right?
Fires of Heaven.
The Fires of Heaven.
Which seems a little contradictory based on all of the media that we see about heaven versus hell, but okay.
I mean, I feel like you always
Interesting take.
Technically, you get sunbeams in heaven, which are made from the sun.
That's true. You do not want to be on the sun.
A great big ball of fire.
Yeah.
So, well, today we're covering chapters 1 through 29. But before that, Laura, what are you reading, watching, and or enjoying?
So I finished Get a Life, Chloe Brown.
What did you think?
I did enjoy it, but I will say that it got a little sexy, and that was a bit much for me.
We wondered if it was going to get too sexy for you.
Is it going to get more?
It's going to get more sexy
in the next two books.
Yes.
Ooh, that makes me afraid.
Well, you might have to wait until next year when you re-up your sexiness levels.
I guess. It's just so hard when you hit your quota to...
Do you just not like reading about sex, or?
I don't know. I think I enjoyed this book because it was a pretty happy book overall. Although there was like some weird things going on between the two main characters in this book at times where I'm like, that was weird dialogue. But
they did have some weird dialogues.
But overall, I thought it was a really good book. But I think I'm just one of those people that doesn't read a lot of romance. So when they have sex scenes that are very long and multiple pages, I'm just a little overwhelmed because I'm like, oh, wow.
That's fair. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what to tell you.
I'm just not used to it, I think, is the thing.
So you will not continue on the Brown sister journey?
No, I think I will. I mean, I'm curious and I liked the book. So I think I'll read the second one.
Okay. Well, as long as we know Laura will.
And I already have it on hold, and I might not get it till next year based on
true.
How long I have to wait.
Yeah. So overall, we'll try it out.
Yeah.
Are you watching anything new right now?
Okay. I watched Captain Marvel with my family.
What did you think?
I was intrigued. And for most of the movie, I didn't understand what was going on.
Oh, yeah, because you don't know any of the background of this.
I don't. So I had to literally go online after watching the movie and read a summary to understand what was happening. Because usually I'm someone who can handle flashbacks, but I was having a difficult time trying to understand what was going on.
Did you like the parts that you understood?
Yes. And after I read the summary, it made a lot more sense to me.
Okay. I definitely
Is that the first one that you should watch?
No.
So if you were to watch, I realize that it is not the first one that was released. I'm saying if you were to watch the movies in an order.
Well, in an order, you would already
would that be the first one
America,
you should watch?
Captain America is definitely first in the timeline because that was put in the 50s. Or not 50s. When was World War II?
The 40s.
The 40s. Thank you. It was in the 40s.
Okay.
Hannah, I learned this weekend. I was talking to a friend. I don't know history. It's like my big, huge blank spot. But
okay.
But no, because Captain America was put in the 40s during World War II because he's fighting Nazis.
Okay. So you would start with Captain America, and then where would you go after that? Captain Marvel?
I would have to look up a timeline. I honestly could not tell you.
When I watched that movie, then at the end, they say, you'll see Captain Marvel again in Avengers Endgame. And I thought, okay, well, are they telling you how to watch this? What order? But I'm a little confused.
That's not what they're doing at all. So the problem is you're talking about them seeing them based on a timeline, but they weren't made on a timeline.
I recognize, but I would like to watch them on a timeline.
Well,
but I'm already off of it apparently.
Well, no, because after, I guess it's where you would go after this one.
Okay.
Because after this one, oh, you know what? No, you wouldn't watch this one next. You would watch Guardians of the Galaxy next. Well, Guardians of the Galaxy starts.
The correct place to start would be Captain America and to watch those films.
Well, Captain America, his first one.
Okay. The first Captain America is the place to start.
I feel like we're making this much more complicated because I should tell people all you need to do is how to watch the Marvel movies based on a timeline, and they'll tell you what the timeline is for all of them. So you can Google this.
I'm going to Google it right now
Okay.
because I think our listeners need to know.
Not to generalize our audience, but I'm pretty sure most of our listeners know. I'm pretty sure you're the enigma here, Laura.
Hannah, you're supposed to be the Avengers guru, and you're not helping me here. I thought you watched all of them.
I did watch all of them. That doesn't make me a guru.
Oh, come on. So the first place to start is Captain America, the first Avengers. So that is the 2011 movie. And I have seen that one.
Yes,
so
you have.
I have gone in the correct order so far. The next one to see is Captain Marvel, which is the 2019 movie. Okay, so then after that, then it's Iron Man, the 2008 movie, followed by Iron Man 2.
I did know the Iron Mans were back
to
back.
Hulk.
You can skip the Hulk.
I can skip the Hulk. Okay. Then Thor, the 2011 movie. Okay. Then the Avengers movie.
Yes.
Okay. Then Iron Man 3.
Yes.
The Iron Man ones get done pretty quickly here, it seems. Then
he was
Thor Dark World.
You do know how the Marvel movies started, right?
I have no idea.
They didn't know where to go with Marvel movies, and the only one they could get the rights to were Iron Man. And so they decided to do it and see how far they could go with it. And they honestly didn't know if it was going to blow up or not. But Robert Downey Jr. was also kind of at a very weird point in his career where prior to this, he had had huge drug issues.
Ooh.
And he was, and he gotten help for them.
Okay.
But he had kind of gotten a name for himself. He was on Ally McBeal for a season. He was supposed to be her end game, and he had drug problems, so he had to leave the show. So they had to create new love interests for her and everything. It was a very big deal at the time.
Yeah.
And so then he had gotten help, but he still wasn't exactly a marketable actor after this. So it was seen as the biggest long shot ever to have Iron Man, who was a superhero that nobody talked about, with Robert Downey Jr., who nobody talked about outside of his drug use. And then it started everything, and it was huge, and that's the only reason it was successful. But it was done
it really was a good move then.
Yes, but that was how it all started. So that's your context corner for that. And people can at me if I'm super wrong about this, but if I'm wrong, I'm getting one or two small details off, and it's still pretty accurate. So I will die on the hill that I'm at least getting a B+ on this discussion. So
I mean, I'd give you an A-.
Well, thank you.
After that, Hannah, it's Thor Dark World.
Yes.
Captain America Winter Soldier. Then we get into the Guardians of the Galaxy 2014 movie. Guardians of the Galaxy ones look like the ones that I would enjoy.
You will love the Guardians of the Galaxy movies.
And then after those two, then we have Avengers Age of Ultron.
Yes.
Which that guy looks a little creepy. Then Ant-Man, which sounds lame, but maybe
it's actually very good.
Okay.
It is. I mean, it's Paul Rudd.
I love him.
Surprisingly good.
Then Captain America Civil War. That looks like Spider-Man with the Captain America thing. Okay. And then Spider-Man Homecoming. Then Doctor Strange, which is Benedict Cumberbatch. Thank you, Sherlock. Yes. Then we have Black Panther. I have seen that.
You have seen Black Panther. So you are a little off.
I am a little off. Then Thor Ragnarok. Oh my gosh, there's so many of these movies. Ant-Man and the Wasp. They made 2 Ant-Man movies.
Because it was good, Laura.
I trust you. And then Black Widow, which is not out yet, would be next.
I feel like you'll have to watch that one out of context. So
well, yeah, because it's not released. And then Infinity, which realistically, it'll probably be released before I get to all these movies.
Well, that's fair.
Then Infinity War. Oh my gosh. Then Endgame. Then WandaVision.
Yes.
Then The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Oh my gosh, there's still more. Then Spider-Man Far From Home.
Yes.
Okay. Wow. That was quite a list.
Yes. I mean, you've decided to do a huge undertaking here.
But a lot of people have watched all these movies and no problem.
But again,
and they can keep all the storylines straight.
I mean, you do realize that Iron Man, when was that released, you said? 2008?
Yeah, so we're going over a period of
I mean, these movies are teenagers by now. Yeah. No, they're 13 by now.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say that
pretty impressive.
It's a huge undertaking that you're doing. So power to you. Godspeed. And I hope you enjoy.
I mean, I think I'll be a huge fan. I think I will enjoy the Guardians of the Galaxy movies quite a bit, and the
think you'll
other
enjoy
ones I'll just try to figure out what's going on.
Yeah, I could see you. I think it's a bold move to go timeline wise because most people go publish by date because they like fit together in a specific way. But I'm interested to see how you deal with it timeline wise because I don't think I know anyone who's done timeline.
Which I'm already off, but we'll see. Next up, I have to watch the Iron Man first two, and then I'll report back.
I will say that, like, remember that this was made in 2008. The Tony Pepper relationship is not great. So just beware. I can tell you that I have not been reading, watching, enjoying anything other than.
Well, you've been having a fun time because you've been in Nashville.
I went to Nashville. I tweeted out to our mysterious Twitter person, Lord Grumpy Dark, a picture of Taylor Swift's section of the Country Music Hall of Fame and said that tweet was for him and him only. So
interesting. Lord Grumpy Dark enjoys Taylor Swift. Okay.
Very much number one fan, apparently.
Okay.
And it was from the album that I have not heard more than one song of. So
okay.
But no, I went to Nashville this weekend with my dad to visit one of my close friends. So this weekend was full of, we did barbecue, we did a steeplechase race, which was very fun.
Yeah, but that was awesome.
The tent next door to the tent we were at was doing like dollar bets that like went up by $1 every single time. And my dad won the first pot and he won $11. And then I won the second pot and I won 30. And then we lost money. So but it was, I don't think we lost more than we won. So
okay, well, that's good.
And we're using it to bet for my close friend who lives down there. Oh, she requested we do name her. We usually do not drop names. But my friend Rima was highly offended that I've mentioned her on this podcast before without using her name out of respect for her privacy. So we will no longer have respect for her privacy.
I'd also like to give out her phone number. It
is 555
867-5309.
I mean, I do have her number on my wall. So
there we go.
But we enjoyed a great weekend. We saw the Grand Ole Opry. Awesome. That was great. It was a Friday show. So there were lots of great singers up there, some old singers for my dad's, fans of my dad's kind of music. And then some newer country music stars that I liked a lot. Trisha Yearwood came out to sing with one of the singers. Cool. It was very cute. She congratulated the woman on her engagement to another woman, which had not happened on the Grand Ole Opry stage before. So,
oh, really?
I don't think so. The announcer came out at the end of it and he was like, well, that's a first for the Grand Ole Opry. And I was like, oh, well, that's good. I'm glad that happened. So good on Trisha Yearwood because she had enough power behind her to be able to do that comfortably.
Sure.
And congratulations to that singer on her new engagement.
Yeah.
But that is what I have been reading, watching, and enjoying. I'm halfway through The Fires of Heaven.
Okay.
And enjoying it very much. So it's been
Hannah, I have a confession to make. I only got through chapter 28.
Okay, well, we can leave chapter 29 to next week, guys.
That is my bad. And I mean, I could go and read one more chapter, but it would just be easier to do 29 next week.
Honestly, 29 isn't that big of a chapter, so we can just cover that.
Perfect,
people. It's perfect. It's a nothing chapter. It's very short. Laura does not need to go and read it right now. We can dive right in. And usually these like setup chapters are much more involved. So we will accept the excuse this time.
Okay. Thanks for letting me slide by on that.
I get it. Well, next week I will be in Colorado for a week hiking.
Yes.
But that I'm driving there so I can pack up my podcasting stuff and we'll be taking our pod on the road. So
yeah, that'll be fun.
I know. It'll be exciting. I hope my Airbnb does not mind the sounds of our recording.
I mean, it's not like super loud.
No, it's not. But shall we, since I don't, and I guess for TV shows, let me think for a second. People should watch. Have I discussed Lovesick before?
I don't think so.
If I haven't, you should watch it. It's one of my favorite British televisions. It's on Netflix. Okay. It is so darn cute. Can't get over it. I rewatch the show all the time. It has a bad premise if you say it out loud for the first time, but I promise it's a very cute show. Because the original title from Netflix that they changed because people weren't watching it was called Scrotal Recall.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And it's about a man, like the impetus of the entire series is in episode 1, minute 1, he finds out that he has chlamydia.
Okay.
And he decides to reach out to all his former lovers and tell them about it personally, and then take it as like a way to kind of restart his life and go down memory lane to like see why those relationships ended. And it does cutbacks, like different months, different, like it'll cut back to like 3 years ago in one episode, and like 4 months ago in the next episode, and then 2 years ago. And it plays with different love stories on his timeline currently. And in the timeline currently, he's in love with his best friend and she's engaged to another man. But in months previous, she was in love with him and he didn't realize it.
Oh, that's the worst.
And it's just so cute. The dynamics between all the friendships are great. There's a moment, it's my favorite moment from the show. My friend Rima watched it with me originally. And she watched this one scene and she was like, we have to restart the series. I need to watch all of this with you, because it's a scene where his best friend, who's like a huge womanizer, describes the entire plot to Point Break in great detail.
Okay.
But he gets so like, but it's cutting into like different scenes of him explaining the plot. And at one point the friend goes, I mean, we could have watched the entire movie by now. And then it cuts to another scene and it cuts to him describing the ending and the main character sitting on the couch crying with emotion about the movie plot that he just
even though they have not watched it,
even though they haven't watched it. And it's such a funny, it's such a great show. I highly recommend people like it. They're 30-minute episodes. It's so easy to watch. 3 seasons. Good. Excellent show. Can't say enough good things about this TV show. It's my favorite. That is the show I'm going to recommend this week, even though I've already seen it 1.5 million times.
Okay, cool.
But with that said, let's get into book number 5.
Let's do it.
So we're going to open with the prologue. We're going to see Elida kind of taking counsel all over her council of different Ajas. She's talking about trying to kind of get everyone together to, you know, see what's going on. She has all the different Ajas, except for there are no blue Aja sisters there, especially with what happened to Suyan in the last book.
Yeah, because Suyan was like the leader of the blue Aja, correct?
Right.
Okay.
And so they're all very upset. And like all the blue people have left the tower. They're all in hiding. She doesn't know where they are.
Justice.
And I think we see a problem here with Elida where it's like, if you get power through force and subterfuge, people don't respect you.
Oh, they definitely do not respect her.
Yeah, because they're just
because they're all leading the conversation. It's like her followers are there. I don't even know if you call them followers, but all the people that are there, they're not really listening to her. They're kind of taking control of the conversation themselves.
The people who are supposed to be counseling her are not counseling. They're just telling her what's going on, talking about, you know, how obsessed Morghese is with Gabriel, which is repeated over and over and over again. How they're forging letters from Elaine to Morghese to make sure her mom doesn't freak out. How there's just like, there's a ton of unrest. And here's where I just sit here and I'm like, what did they still Suyan over? Because everyone leaves and Elida's like, yeah, Rand is definitely the dragon reborn. And it's like, okay, so then why did you steal this woman? Because if you agree.
Yeah, so that doesn't make sense.
Right. But Elida like recognizes that she needs to get the tower back into one, or else they won't be powerful enough to pretty much overtake Rand and use him to their own end, pretty much.
Yeah, they want the tower to be in control of the dragon.
Yeah. And her entire thing is like committed to finding him and getting the tower all together as one. Right. And so everyone leaves, and then an Accepted comes in and tells her that Padon Fane has arrived.
Yay.
And I think what Laura and I said in the last episode about her not being a dark friend is shown to probably be true.
Yeah.
Because she doesn't know who he is. She just knows that he's here with information. And he comes in and he notices that there's tension between, you know, all the different Aes Sedai. He notices like Elviren, who is talking to Elida, like he thinks she knows too much about him, but he doesn't know why. And he senses the ruby dagger in the horn of Valir in the tower, and he wants it. He also fears if he goes to Shadar Logoth, he'll be trapped again because Mordeith is part of him now. And they start talking about Rand, and he tells her that she must like get control over him. Then we go on over to Robin, who is Gabriel and Camelin. He is a Forsaken.
Mm-hmm.
He has pretty much taken over Morghese and gotten
he's definitely
her.
controlling her.
Yes, definitely controlling her. And like Lanfear comes in. She chides him about the Aes Sedai, and he says that people in the White Tower have warned him that there was a Red Aja who was sneaking around the castle for him, who he now controls with compulsion. And then she tells him that there are others coming of the Forsaken. They all arrive, and they're just kind of like, I don't know, fighting with each other in the most catty way ever. And they're like, well, Ishamael died. And Lanfear is like, yeah, he deserved it. It's just, there's a lot of back and forth. And Robin says he's stronger than Grendel, but she would link with Lanfear if he tried anything. So and like linking is a huge part of this book, which is just like two women or a man and a woman linking their powers together to overpower someone else. But men can't link with other men. All that stuff is going on. So Lanfear proposes working with Samael, Grendel, and Demandred against Mogadine.
She basically urges the four of them to work together.
Yes. Sorry about that. Yeah. So Lanfear proposes that four of them work together. And she notes that someone is trying to control Rand. She's going to stay close to him. And Robin thinks like her plan is just to be with Rand because, you know.
Well,
she loves Lews Therin so much.
Lews Therin.
And that's her entire personality outside of
basically
being hot. Like it's all you ever learn about Lanfear. There's nothing else. She likes also, the dream world.
Kind of interesting that is it Samael that he has a scar that he got from Lews Therin, and he, as a Forsaken, obviously has the power to like remove it, but he doesn't because bitterness. He has to remember that Lews Therin, who is not Rand, but also maybe Rand, is definitely the bad guy. Yeah. That's the prologue. So chapter 1, the prologue was so long in this. It was long. So many characters, guys, so much. But then we go over to Min, who is being trapped with Suyan and Leanne because Logain burned down a barn, knocked someone on the head, and stole his purse. Which was kind of random, but it was such a random opening to be like, hey, we've been traveling with Logain for weeks, but he suddenly took off with a purse and burnt down a barn that we were in? ? I feel like it was kind of unexpected because did we know that he was kind of a loose cannon in terms of his power? I guess I didn't think so, but I guess he is. I just don't understand. But we find out that Leanne is definitely going all Damani, and now she's wearing makeup and trying to be seductive because so it's just a huge part of her. They are taken to Gareth Bryn, who is the Queen's former lover and advisor, Morghese, and they all swear to serve him until the day they pay off their debt instead of getting pretty much killed by the farmers. So, or taken to the farmer to work because he fears what they would do to them. And so on their way to Bryn's Manor to pay off their debt, Min is like, why did you promise to do that? And Suyan is like, well, we all promised to do it, but we didn't say when we do it. So we'll still escape. Yeah, she's like, we're getting out of here, so don't worry about it. Loophole. But then Min is like, oh gosh, if I have to pay off that debt, that means another year I won't be without Rand. I love him. I love him so much. And I have to share him all the time. But then all of a sudden, the guy who is driving the carriage gets attacked. Logain is like, hey, I'm here and I brought money. And then they just head south. And that's it. But Gareth learns about this and he prepares to go searching for them. He has become obsessed with Suyan, who is called Mara for a while because they're all under hidden names because Suyan can't be known as the Amaryllis seat. Because a lot of people think she's dead. Yes. So... Well, and he's met the Amaryllis before, but he just didn't recognize her because now she looks like a young girl again. She de-aged. I'm confused. Didn't they say that she looked old after she was stilled? Yes, but I think the whole thing is she stopped. Well, they said she stopped looking ageless, but they actually don't know the effects of being stilled. And so it's almost like they've heard, and later in the book, they're like, we've heard of women de-aging after being stilled. I also think that this is one of the things where Robert Jordan didn't think of this as a plot point until this particular book, because he does something similar where we're going to get into it with Balefire,
Where in the last book, like people were just bale firing each other up and down and all around. But in this book, he's like, oh, but there is
actually there's rules.
Yeah, there are rules to balefire. And I didn't know about them until I just wrote about them here. So now these are the rules moving forward. So I do think with Suyana, it's like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if now they looked like she's 20, even though she's really 50, so that when Gareth is obsessed with her, he's still obsessed with a woman who looks like she's 20.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be cool, Laura? Do you not
and
think
also
that's cool?
Because 20-year-olds much better than 50-year-olds.
And you can't have non-hot people in this story.
Exactly.
And old men can be hot because Robert Jordan was old and he was hot. So
50-year-old women, not hot.
Not hot. I'm so sorry to Robert Jordan's wife.
Must be 20. He started thinking about this and he was like, oh, you know what? If she's stilled, she might not look hot. So let's say
fix that.
She reverse ages like Benjamin Button.
Well, and then she can stay older for longer. So when she's 100, she will still look 70.
She'll look amazing.
So yeah, that's the rules we're going with now. But anyway, he's obsessed with Mara now. And then he notes like they've finally heard about the Stone of Tear falling, how Suyana was stilled and executed by Elida, and how she's the Amaryllis. And he's like, God, I always hated Elida. And that Logain is dead. So that was the background stuff we needed to know. We cut over to Altima, who was from Tear in the last book. And like Rand had controlled her husband and all that stuff. She comes to Caemlyn to talk to Morghese, and she knows that Morghese is a lover. She tells her that Rand is the Dragon Reborn and he's left Tear. Morghese thought he was heading to Kyrian, but he's not. He's, in the Aiel Waste. They are both aware that Elida is now Amaryllis seat. Lord Gabriel Raven walks in.
Yeah.
He sends Morghese to her bed chamber, and then he uses compulsion to extract Altima's true reason for coming to Andor, which is she had to flee because she was trying to poison her husband.
She wants another husband that's rich.
Yeah. And he and like the woman he was in love with are now after her. She chose Caemlyn as the best place to find a wealthy man to reestablish her power. And she's like, why did I say all this to him? I don't know.
So that happened in the last book with Nynaeve, where Mogadine, where they get so obsessed with this person manipulating them, and then they're like, wait a minute, why did I say all that? And I kind of think that's funny.
It is very funny, but it just keeps happening.
Robert Jordan thought, this is a funny one, I'm going to reuse it.
That's very true. We also cut over to Morghese, who's like, oh, I wonder how Gareth is doing. And then she's like trying to fight Gabriel's compulsion, and she can't do it. Rand is in the middle of Ruidian, which is like in ruin since his last fight. And Moraine is loading up Hadnan Kadir's wagons with like all these one power items to take back to Tar Valon. And like the Tree of Life was burned down, but Moraine's like, I still think it's alive because you can't have it dead just because Robert Jordan burned it to the ground in the last book.
That things come back to life if we need them to.
Right. People have joined the Shido who are like not ready to accept the Aiel history, as we spoke about in the last book. And Egwene is now dressing like an Aiel woman because Egwene
is easily influenced, apparently.
I like to, well, we'll talk about that later. Moraine tells
the other characters even mentioned like something about it. They're like, she's just like an Aiel woman now. Because I'm like, okay, even the other characters are getting annoyed with her. Okay.
But also it's like you're in the Aiel Waste, and she keeps talking about like, well, these clothes were built for the desert, so why wouldn't I wear them? And everyone else is like, no, I'm going to look uncomfortable so they know I don't belong. And it's just like,
I am a wetlander. I will wear this outfit.
I will wear a coat or nothing and just
my riding skirts or nothing.
Exactly. Where I do think Egwene has the right thing of like, I mean, don't like culturally appropriate a clothes to someone.
Sure.
But if you're riding through the desert and they say, hey, these are more comfortable, do you want to wear them while you go through the desert? I think it's like pretty okay to say, yeah, that sounds good for now. But
sure,
it's my opinion. Moraine tells Rand that the wagons will soon be ready to leave for Tar Valon because she really wants to go. He calls her little sister, and then he's like, where did that come from? She shows Rand that she found another seal, and she shows that you can scratch it, showing that like the seals are weakening. And she wants to know Rand's plans and cautions him that she will eventually have to leave him. he doesn't want to go after things like Samael and Ilion because he might find a welcoming party there and he might lose. Moraine chides him for leaving Kalendor, and Rand plans to take the Aiel across the Dragon Wall and use them to unite the West. Moraine thinks Suyan is preparing Tarvalon for his return. She's not. And Rand suddenly remembers Illyana's appearance, like Lews Theron's wife, and
but he doesn't remember because he says something like, "Oh yeah, that reminds me of a queen," and then he's like, "Wait, who is this?"
Right, it's so dumb. Rand is not the smartest. No, he's just not the smartest.
Read a book like you've been telling people to, Rand.
You've never read a description of this woman or seen a painting. I just don't understand. But yeah, that's pretty much what's going on. Egwene is like, "Hey, Rand, Elaine loves you," and walks away.
Yeah.
And then Rand talks to Asmodean, who is still pretending to be his gleeman who's writing down his story. And Egwene says for like the first of like 8,622 times, Rand is getting such a big head. He's like so conceited now. He has this gleeman writing around. I mean, I know he's supposed to save the world, but he's so conceited, Laura.
Oh, he is.
But Lanfear's shield is still in effect on Asmodean. Rand can't see it, but no one else can. Rand asks if he would ever like turn back to the dark side, and Asmodean says like any of the Forsaken would kill me on sight because of what I've done. He also notes that Lanfear wants to be stronger than Rand so she can control him. He discusses linking of power, which we discussed previously, and two men cannot link together. But
they can with a woman though, so like they can have a trio. So like I'm sure they're like, "Oh, Lanfear, get in here with us and then we'll link." But
also he says like men are inherently the stronger of the two, but women can overpower us if they join together. So it's, feminist but misogynist at the same time too.
Who's stronger, one man or all the women in the world? All the women in the world, but one man is equal power.
Exactly. And then they discuss where they know like certain Forsaken are. Asmodean thinks that the Dark One will win. He asks if Rand destroyed like the two Angreal from the last book that he saw him with. And Rand is like, "Yes, I did." And he's like, "Well, then you're definitely going to lose. And I'm going to kill myself before I go crazy." Also, people are getting married because Rand is there because that is Rand's power.
I just don't enjoy that.
It's dumb.
A weird thing. I don't get it.
And then we cut over to Matt, who literally has no plot besides I'm finally having sex with a woman throughout this entire first half.
They're teaching him to sing, you mean?
No, he's just having sex with women. I refuse, Laura. But he's also gambling because he's Matt. He wins a knife throwing game blindfolded because he feels a rush of tavern good luck. And then he looks at his fox head medallion he got in the Twisted Doors. This woman named Melindra comes up and she's interested in him. He gives her a necklace and it is on. But she isn't the daughter of the Nine Moons, which he will ask her every time they have sex.
Right.
Every time. Matt is also dumb. Matt tells Rand that he's going to leave with Kadir and Moraine. And Rand is like, "Well, don't trust Kadir," which is and also Kadir doesn't end up leaving with Moraine. They just continue on with Rand. So this plot is weirdly just dropped for no reason. I mean, at one point,
Rand is things like that where they're mentioned and then it's just thrown away. Like, why did we even have to mention this?
Like a chapter or two later, Rand is like, "By the way, Moraine's definitely not going to leave me." And Matt is like, "Curse you, Tabir." So dumb.
Why? Have you ever seen? Okay, you saying that? Have you ever seen the Fairly Odd Parents on Nickelodeon?
I know what you're talking about. It's the dad. He always says
the dad who always wants this trophy, and he's like, "This is where I'd put my trophy if I had one." And that's what I always think of with Matt and this stupid tavern thing, where he's like, "Ah,
this is where I would run away if I could." Perrin did it, but he didn't have it as strongly as I do. No, Robert Jordan just doesn't know what to do with Matt right now.
Yeah.
No, but it's so dumb. And then Melindra is also like, "Hey, you gave me a necklace, but I'm not going to marry you." Because apparently if you give an Aiel woman a trinket, she thinks you're going to try to marry her.
Yeah.
It's really stupid. Rand goes into the roof of the Maidens, which they renamed one of the buildings. He's the only one who's allowed to go in there because he's special.
Well, the guy shine can go in, correct?
Oh yeah, the guy shine can go in. You're right. Sorry. Rand is also keeping Asmodean in like a weird prison of power because he's growing stronger. He's seeing him all the time and he trusts him more than Moraine, he said, which is very ironic. Aviendha comes in and she tries to cancel their quote unquote debt, which they don't have, with this belt she made for him. And she said she made it because she was supposed to make something from her old weapons, three items for people she loves and 3 for who she hates. And
this is
Rand
the stupidest exchange.
And Rand is like, am I one of the people you hate? And she's like, yes, because I don't like you. And then she storms out.
But really, she loves him.
I know. Also, while she's in there, Ascendra, who was the beautiful woman from the last book who stole all the jewelry, comes in and she's only wearing the jewelry she stole and like nothing else. And Aviendha freaks out and just assumes that Rand is sleeping with her because anytime a woman enters Rand's bedchambers, people are like, well, they're obviously fucking.
It's like they are having sex.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, Aviendha, come on. You are in his bedchamber and you are always screaming at him. So get with it.
Yeah. You know what's the unfortunate thing? As this book went on, I was actually, out of the 3 women Rand could be with, I was like, the only one who makes sense is Aviendha because they're the only ones who have had conversations for more than a month.
Who know each other
at all, who have any amount of interaction outside of, hey, I think I'm in love with that guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. It sucks. But Rand, and Rand also says, like, I'll never kill another woman. Then he goes to bed and he sets wards of spirits to shield his dreams because the wise ones were getting into his dreams in the last book. He fingers the wound in his side and he thinks it'll eventually kill him. He thinks of the prophecies of the dragon and that his blood will be on the rocks of Shao Ghul. Shaking it off, he falls asleep and he dreams of Elaine, Min, and Aviendha.
Yeah.
Egwene is washing with soap, which none of the wise ones do or anyone else who's Aiel. They just go into sweat rooms and that's how they bathe. And then she is told to like go over to the wise ones, but she takes her time. They are meeting with Moraine and they're discussing how Moraine is like scared of taking the Aiel over into like the southern areas because she thinks it'll alienate the countrymen against him. And the Aiel are like, we don't care.
Right.
And so Moraine leaves.
Well, because Moraine wants to unite everyone.
Right.
For battle. And they're like, who cares?
We don't care. They do not care about people in the South. Those people could die and they would just step over their bodies.
Correct.
But Aviendha was switched and they said that she requested it for telling 2 lies, which the other lie, if anyone was interested in, because it's obviously saying she hated Rand. The other lie is,
my gosh,
Rand keeps giving her flowers, not because he likes her like that, or so he says. It's the dumbest thing where he's like, I'm just such a nice guy that I just give her flowers all the time. And she never mentions it. And Aviendha just gave them to Egwene and she was like, here, I picked these for you. But she has to get switched because she lied to Egwene about giving her flowers she picked.
I just hate so much about the whole Aviendha Rand thing where it's like
really dumb.
Can we please just make this a better enemies to lovers story and just
you can't
leave out all the anger?
I just laugh so hard at the like, I've been giving her flowers, not because I'm interested, but because I'm such a nice guy. Like, in what world, guys? In what world do you just deliver flowers every day? Because you're a good guy. I can't wait for you to get into the next couple chapters. I can't wait for those text messages. Spoilers.
No.
Guys. And then they're like, hey, Aviendha, you need to sleep in Rand's room from now on. And Egwene is like, but Aviendha's honor, even though they talk about how like certain things don't, and then they both of them get punished and have to run 50 laps for like rule breaking to the wise ones.
Which, you know what? I always hated running the mile in high school. So just punishment.
That's fair. But it's also really weird because as they're running, you find out that like the wise ones lie to both of them about how the other one is so much better than they are.
I know.
And it was making Egwene really uncomfortable. Like, I guess I can't do anything right. And then Aviendha was like, I guess I can't do anything right. They both just talk and Egwene's like, oh, I guess we can do some things right.
Right.
It's the dumbest thing. Well, then they talk about like customs and Aviendha's like, do you think like someone like Elaine could ever just like share?
Do you think she could have a sister wife?
Just like, and Egwene does not take that as a hint. I don't know why.
And she's like, yeah, probably.
Well, and then Egwene is
maybe
like,
her and Min.
Egwene is also like, I'll talk to the wise ones because like I don't want your honor to be in danger by sleeping in Rand's room. And Avienda's like, that's not a thing. But Egwene doesn't believe her. Like,
Right.
It's the most confusing thing where they're like, hey, just so you know, Rand is in Elaine's just because they made out twice.
Right.
And
She's like,
Avienda is like,
don't belong to each other.
And Avienda's like, no, they obviously belong to each other. They made out twice. But then Egwene is like, hey, do you not want to sleep in his room because like you're worried about your honor? And she's like, no, that's not a thing. And it's like, well, these are
Then
so contradictory.
What makes sense then, Avienda?
None of it makes sense.
The only thing that makes sense is that the wise ones are motivating these two girls in such a weird way.
Yes. But anyway, they keep running and they finish their laps and they go to bed. Rand is sleeping and he wakes up and he's attacked by 3 dark hounds and he kills them with balefire. Moiraine comes in and she was like, hey, balefire is kind of dangerous. And then she's like, also, if they ever like drool on you or bite you, it's incredibly deadly. But they usually run in packs of 7 to 10. So I don't know why there were so few. And then Rand just like leaves and runs to Matt, who has finished having sex with his woman now. Again, Matt is the only one. Well, I guess now Rand is the only virgin left in this because Perrin is married.
Of the boys.
Yes. Well, the girls can't have sex before marriage, Laura. They would be ruined.
Correct.
That is how this works. So Egwene and Elaine and Min, those girls just can't do any of that stuff.
No.
But Matt can.
Mm-hmm.
Perrin waited for marriage. So according to last week's episode, Hannah is fully on board for the waiting till marriage. And it is the only relationship she approves of so far. Perrin.
As long as you're being consistent.
Yeah, as long as I'm being consistent. But anyway, Matt, like, Rand runs in and he kills more of the dogs with balefire. And Matt's like, it's weird. I could have sworn I saw one of their faces through the door and then it wasn't there anymore. And I swear one of them drooled on me. And weirdly, my arm itches too. But they couldn't have because the door is intact. And then Moiraine runs in and she's like, you're in grave danger. And she heals him. And then she puts on this new rule on balefire, which we never had before, where you, like, for the amount of balefire you use, there's like an equal and opposite reaction where it reverses time for some reason.
So, like,
only specific time.
Yeah, like, things don't exist anymore in the past.
Yes. So you could like desolate an entire city if you use too much balefire.
Right.
But then like all those things that the people in the city did cease to exist as well. It doesn't really so many questions, guys.
When I was reading this, I immediately thought, oh my gosh, they have to tell Nynaeve because she's gonna balefire an entire village and it's gonna be bad.
Yeah, exactly. So this rule just came up. I don't think it's a bad rule. I'm interested to see how Robert Jordan uses it.
But it's very bad for someone like Nynaeve who has severe anger issues and is going to balefire the crap out of things.
Right. Also, it didn't happen in Tenchico when that lady balefired that entire castle. So this is where I'm like, this rule just appeared out of nowhere.
Yeah.
So yeah. Anyway, Rand explains he can skim from place to place by like opening up a portal to like a different dimension and then opening up another portal.
He uses those gateways a lot.
Right. Although he could just travel through an actual gateway and it'd be much faster, but the other guy can't teach him how to do it yet. Moiraine offers to be submissive to Rand if he will let her help him, and he agrees. Then he goes back to his room and he pulls out the statues he said he destroyed. And these are the 2 control statues. If you guys remember in the first book, or it's the second book, they came across this huge statue that was being unearthed. And it's like a huge Angreal that he can control through this statue. And there's a female version of this where they could link and become very, very, very powerful. Lanfear appears and she's like, I knew you wouldn't destroy those. We should use those. And then he screams, you were always ambitious, Myrene. Why do you think I turned from you? Ambition is all there is to you. And she recognizes that this is Luce Theron yelling at her, but Rand won't acknowledge it. She tells him he can't trust Asmodean and that Robin sent the Dark Hounds because he doesn't want him to interfere in Andor or Kyrian. Lanfear leaves, and the clan chiefs show up saying Ruark is moving to the Jengai Pass to get to the southern lands to kill people and get the Aiel to bow to him, pretty much. Egwene, you find out that Egwene can travel into other people's dreams, and the wise ones are trying to get her to learn how to jump into different dreams. And she jumped into Amisa's dreams, but she also finds out that like she has less control in other people's dreams. So she's gone into a couple others, and it's really awkward for her.
Which that makes sense to me.
Right. She does go into Avienda's dream, and she sees that Rand is chasing her. And again, Egwene cannot take a hint, and she thinks,
like, what does this mean?
She's like, I think she's scared of sharing a bedroom with him because of her honor, even though that's not
Rand is really pushing it, and it's making her uncomfortable.
I know. And then she's woken up to go to the Jengai Pass. She goes on her horse mist. She sees Rand giving orders to have the OWWRs rebuild Ruidian. And she's like, he's getting really big-headed, but I approve of that. She also sees a woman smile at Matt. She spots Avienda and goes to talk with her. Avienda gives her an ivory bracelet. Egwene gives her a silver necklace because they're besties. Avienda tells her she's no longer troubled by Rand, but Egwene is like, I've been in your dreams, girl. That ain't true.
Right.
A crowd gathers and they're like, Rand, are you ever coming back? And he's like, I mean, I hope so, but you never know. Very helpful. And then he decides to channel water through the fountains of Ruidian. And the Aiel are delighted. And then he's like, okay, time to go. We cut over to Moraine, and she sees that the twisted red doorway is traveling with Kadir, which like at this point, Rand knows that Kadir is a dark friend. Do you think he would be like, hey, Moraine, maybe don't like give him all those powerful objects?
I have wondered why this has not been mentioned.
Because like the two seals to the like that could be broken very easily, as she has said, are in the wagon too. And she's like, I'm so sad we're leaving all these other items. And it's just like, maybe you should have left them all. It just seems not good. But the 3 rings are fenced off to stop people from entering because if they're still there, because the wise ones. And it's mentioned that they are the same as the glass columns, as we discussed last time with like Avienda going through them. Land is concerned for Moraine because she agreed to help Rand and like be subservient to him. And then she mentions that when she went into the 3 rings, she saw that if she had slept with Rand, it would have been a disaster, which is such a weird thing to randomly say, like, hey, these two will never have sex. And it's like, okay, good. Like, I didn't think that was a possibility.
Such a weird thing to be like, okay, in this ring, you will learn that you should not control him with sex.
What was that?
Because you will become obsessed with him for all of time, like Lanfear.
Yeah, apparently that's how this works. Lan is also like, hey, do you know when Tarma and Gaiden is coming? And she's like, no. And then she thinks about how she's like, oh, I arranged for Lan to be with Nynaeve. And it's like, okay, but then why were you so bitchy in the last book?
Yes.
You're never getting him, except when I made sure you were getting him.
But you're getting him.
Then Nynaeve is traveling across Terrebonne. They're going by carriage because she wanted to be right about not traveling by boat where the Black Asha could be, but she also wanted to be mad about it.
I know.
Because she's like, how are we in this stupid carriage? And Elaine's like, it was your idea.
Yeah. So many exchanges between Elaine and Nynaeve in this are just like Elaine's pointing out to Nynaeve, you came up with this.
I'm a big fan of this book and how many times Elaine and Egwene are like, hey, we're not going to deal with this because you're throwing a temper tantrum. Yeah. And Nynaeve is like, oh, am I throwing a temper tantrum?
Yes.
She's
having a lot of self-discovery.
There's a TikTok where someone goes, is it me? Am I the drama? No, I don't think I'm the drama. Am I? And that is Nynaeve.
Yeah.
She is the drama, guys. But they run into some white cloaks and they're like, hey, what's going on in Tanchico? And she's like, well, we're traveling. You know, it's kind of dangerous there, but Amathero is still the Panarch and Andric is still the king. And they're like, do you know about any Aes Sedai? And she's like, no. They head to Amadisia. They make camp and Nynaeve sends Tom for food and he comes back with like 3 hams because men are stupid. I don't know.
They talk a lot about like eating just meat all the time. And I'm like, after you've been traveling for a long time, who just wants to eat a bunch of ham?
Okay, well, here's the thing. In the books, they often go on meat and cheese and bread because those are things that can keep in like the right situation.
Sure.
But
ham.
If she's sending you into town saying, hey, make sure you get vegetables and you come back with 3 ham, are you a helpful traveling companion? Like, what's going on there?
Next time, bring the list.
Nynaeve also mentions that like Elaine is like mercilessly flirting with Tom in the most uncomfortable way possible.
Yeah, it's very uncomfortable. She mentions like, oh yeah, he's old enough to be your dad. Like,
three
please
times
stop.
over. 3 times over. It's very gross. And she says like Tom just kind of ignores it, but also like, ew, I don't know.
Yeah.
And
Elaine, it's weird to me because it's like she knows that he was her mother's lover.
Well,
and
we'll
I don't know if it's like one
they,
of those things where it's like, oh, this is me getting back at my mom, but it comes off weird.
Well, Nynaeve in a later chapter goes into like, oh, I see this happen with girls all the time where they like want their dads to love them more than their moms or have sex with the men or their moms want to have sex. Like it was the most Oedipal crap I've ever read.
Oedipus complex.
And what a weird way to write it. Like it just felt very gross and icky. And like to have Nynaeve be like, I deal with this all the time. It's like, do you?
Why do you deal with this, Nynaeve?
Do you? Is it like, it's just so gross. Like this, I did not like this.
It's just a weird way to explain it. And it's done very badly.
But anyway, like Nynaeve is like, hey, let's go to town. And she's like, do you realize you're like hitting on Tom? Like, should you be doing that? And Elaine's like, I just miss Rand so much.
Yeah. What a strange thing to say. She's like, I miss Rand. And you know what? We're out here all alone. And I need to have someone to flirt with. And he is a very intelligent person and has a lot of diplomatic experience. So I'm going to flirt with him.
And then Nynaeve is like, what diplomatic experience does he have? Because she doesn't know that secret yet.
Yeah.
She's confused. And then
she's like, he's just a gleeman. What the heck?
Why are you talking about his experience? It's just gross. And she's also like, hey, do you think that Min knew, like, if I have to share Rand, do you think she knows who I have to share him with? And it's like, it's obviously Min. You're sharing him with Min. Like, but she also doesn't know who she's going to end up with because Min didn't specifically say Rand. She just assumes it's Rand because everyone assumes that Elaine and Rand are meant for each other.
I mean, I assumed that, but
I didn't, but I mean, now I assume that he's meant for 3 women. So there you go. But anyway, they headed to town for veggies and Nynaeve sees a mark for yellow Aja, which like suddenly in book 5, we find out that that's the Aja she wants to be in. Even though before this,
random. I mean, it was always sense. Like, which those are the healers. So that definitely makes sense that Nynaeve wants to be them. But for some reason, I always thought that she wanted to be green.
I just think that there wasn't enough about her because, like, here's the thing: she never really wanted to be Aja. So all of a sudden, for her to be like, "Well, I've always wanted to be yellow," it's just like, "Did you?"
Like, when was that mentioned? Was that during the favorite color conversation?
I'm Nynaeve Almira. What's your favorite color? And then what's the Aja you want to be in? These are both very important. But anyway, they go inside. They make the symbol for Aes Sedai, and they meet the owner, who insists they come in for tea, and it's very suspicious. They get the message. All sisters are welcome to return to the tower. The tower must be whole and strong. And then they realize they were drugged. And then they pass out because they were drugged. Elaine wakes up and they found out that like they've been given this specific herb that keeps them from channeling. It was an herb that Nynaeve definitely didn't know. And these 2 women talk about how they're going to send out pigeons to warn someone that they're coming. But then they're saved by Tom and Julian because they follow them into town, which makes Nynaeve mad, even though they saved them. But anyway.
What a thing to be mad about.
They catch the woman and they find out they think that they're dark friends, but they find out they sent pigeons to Tar Valon about Elaine because the Amerlin seat said that they should be notified immediately. And they're like, why would Suyan say that? She sent us off because, you know, whatever. And then Julian buys a coach. It goes over to Rondé, who was the owner of the shop after she like was able to be released. They send out pigeons after this to Tar Valon and then one to the west. We don't know where. And then the man who owns the pigeons copies the message down and sends it out again because he's probably a dark friend, guys. But you find out Rondé she's a spy for the yellow Aja because like different Ajas have different spies out in the universe.
So this is like something that we didn't really know before, but there's like, even though like all the Ajas, you know, have the White Tower and they congregate, there's also like leaders of the different Ajas and they're all like kind of separate.
Yes.
I guess this was news to me in this book.
It was news to me too. Because it was news to Robert Jordan in this book.
Yeah. I was just like, oh, I didn't realize that the blue Aja kind of had their own thing. Oh,
Right.
the yellow Aja also have their own thing.
And so since we found that out, we cut over to Suyeon, who's going after a blue Aja agent because she used to control the blue Aja agents before she became Amaryllin Seat. She surprises the woman. The woman makes her feel bad about her legs.
Which is such a weird, this whole thing is weird. Like, she's like, I'm going to sing. And she's like, no, you can't sing unless you're going to show your legs. And she's like, I won't show my legs. She's like, good, because they're ugly anyways. Better not show them. Come into this back room so I can talk to you about how ugly your legs are. And then she's like, why would you come at this time? You know that I wouldn't have had to say those things if you would just come at a different time.
You know,
what a weird thing. Why can't you come up with something better to say?
Laura, you know I wouldn't have harassed you if you just weren't wearing those clothes. You were obviously asking for it.
Oh.
But anyway, she's like, I'm sorry I came at a bad time. Everything's a bad time. Suyeon is dead, even though I'm Suyeon, but I'm not going to tell you that.
I'm having a bad lifetime.
Having a bad lifetime. She's like, Elida's now Amaryllin. I'm in a glass case of emotion.
Right.
And then she's like, hey, can you she's like, can you tell me anything about where the blue are going? And she gives Suyeon a code name, Solidera. And Suyeon's like, I know exactly what that means. And then she says, tell Eldine I'm still loyal, who's like the blue Aja secret keeper.
Right.
And then it cuts over to Min, who's sitting with Leanne and Logain. And she's like, I miss Rand. And I wish I could be like Leanne. And
I wish I
flirt
could
with him
with guys.
And touch him in 96 different ways to touch a man's face. Because apparently that's the thing.
Leanne could teach me how to flirt with guys if it would help me with Rand because I love him so much. You know what? Min, you don't even have to flirt with him because he
loves you
all the time. And the betrayal that you've done in his dreams is worse than anything.
It's really gross. But anyway, Suyeon comes in and she's like, we're headed south. And then you note that there are many white cloaks about. We find out that Gareth Bryn is also following them still because he's obsessed with Mara.
He's obsessed with her.
He finds out that back in Camelin, they're getting rid of the Queen's Guard for people who call themselves the White Lions. And he recalls that when he met Suyeon Sun-chan, who he shouldn't be thinking about because like it's for a plot device because why would he be thinking about her? Last time he saw her, it was because there was a border dispute in Burundi. He remembers that like Elida and Suyeon were working together and they convinced Morghese to not interfere with the border dispute. And Suyeon yelled at Gareth when he questioned her about it.
Right. Like he never found out why.
Yeah. It's really stupid. Elaine and Nynaeve are traveling as a lady and her maid. And Nynaeve,
this is the best thing
Nynaeve
ever.
is called Nana. And she hates it. She's being a huge baby.
Love it.
She's just like, my lady, can I rub your feet? Lady, can I do this for you? Lady. And Elaine's like, do you want to switch?
She's like, you're the one who came up with this idea. Quit doing this. And she's like, well, the clothes were picked for you. So I'm going to keep being like this. It's like, oh.
Well, also Nynaeve throughout all of her points of view is always like, God, Elaine is just so high and mighty. Her haughty tone. And it's just like, you do realize
she's not.
She's doing this in front of people to keep on airs that she's a lady so they don't question you guys. But she's just like, it's like a queen with Rand. They're so stuck up. I can't believe that they're this stuck up. And it's like, do you think that there's a reason for it? No, they're just terrible. So Nynaeve does, in her defense, calm down when Elaine's like, hey, dude, you're being a big baby about this. And like, you had this idea and I'm following through, but like, I'm not going to keep doing this. If you want to switch, we can switch and I'll clean up after you, but I don't care. And Nynaeve is like, no, my idea was right all along. Like, it's so stupid.
She'd rather have her idea go through than have to like admit that it was a bad idea. She'd rather she'd rather have an idea that she has to do something she doesn't want to do as long as it's her idea.
Well, also, no, I think it's more just she's just dramatic.
Yeah.
She's just very dramatic. So it has to be this. I can't believe we have to go through this. And it's just like, well, this is what we have to do. We're on this mission.
Also, is it that difficult? No.
Elaine was like, we still sleep in the same bedroom. You had to serve me for dinner because they were using you as help, but I felt bad about it and I didn't want them to. Like,
and it's not like Elaine is being extremely rude to her. She's not.
No. But anyway, they stop when they see a menagerie, and this man, Valen Luca, is like, hey, I need a sponsor because we just lost a lot of money because these boar horses, which are in fact elephants. I looked it up. Yeah, they're elephants. Kind of ruined some stuff in the city behind us. And Nynaeve was like, maybe you should get a better job. And Elena's like, hey, could you give him some money to like show us good graces? And Nynaeve gives him
like a nickel.
She gives him a half penny. She's like, maybe
like,
if you had a better job. Yeah. And Elena's like, Nynaeve, we're going to be so much more memorable now that we did that because now we angered him and he has no reason to keep quiet about us. And Nynaeve was like, nope, I'm right. But anyway, they go to the next hotel. They go up to sleep and Nynaeve goes into Talia and Riyadh. And Elaine, before she falls asleep, is like, tell Rand I love him. But anyway, Nynaeve goes into like the Stone of Tear because that's where they always meet. And she meets up with Brigitte, who has been meeting them and trying to help them as much as she can. She says her love of her life, Gadal Kane, has likely been born again, but she doesn't know when she will be born because time works differently here. She's seen the Forsaken running around and they're more active, but she hasn't seen Mogadine, and she warns her against her because she's called a tiny, deadly spider. Nynaeve asks permission to tell the others about her, and Brigitte is like, don't do that. And so.
But what do we know about Nynaeve? Great with secrets.
Great with secrets. But anyway, the wise ones come in, Mullane, who Nynaeve hates. Nynaeve is worried because of the danger of Couladin and the Shido. She tells them where they're at. She tells them about how Rand Mercura gave her an odd message, but she doesn't tell them about being drugged.
Right.
And this is the first time she's ever lied to Egwene. Egwene tells her about the Shido crossing the Jangai Pass and Rand following. Moraine now obeys Rand, and Nynaeve is like horrified by this. And then like, why am I horrified? I hate Moraine. And then she tells them that the Forsaken are planning something because she's seen them around Tel and Riyadh. Mullane is like, don't just go running around here. It's extremely dangerous. And then she tells her that like, if you die, Lan will be so mad and he'll die too. And Nynaeve was like, how dare you talk about that? And so she still refuses to stay out of Tal and Riyadh, and Mullane dresses her up like a little girl before she and Egwene disappear, which is so stupid.
I hate that.
I know. And then Nynaeve is like, I think I can figure out what's going on in the White Tower by myself. So she goes to the Amerlin study and she tries to go into the Amerlin study, realizes that it's warded, goes off into her room, and then just walks over.
I know. I don't understand that.
She disguises herself as Mullane. She sees Elida in an Amerlin stole, but she's like, oh God, she has weird dreams. That's totally wish fulfillment. And then Egwene shows up and realizes, like, knows it's Nynaeve. And she's like, you need to stop playing around in here. Like, you need to take it seriously. And Nynaeve is like, I don't have to listen to you. And Egwene's like, no, like, nightmares can become real. And then she, like, pushes a nightmare onto Nynaeve. And Nynaeve, like, begs her to stop. She takes her a little bit more seriously. And this is a trick of the book that I noticed in this book. Nynaeve and Moraine in this book in particular start calling Egwene a woman when they're reading from her perspective. Like every time before, it's always been a girl. But now it's like the other woman does this. And we find out that, like, I think it said in this book in particular that Matt is 20 years old.
Okay.
So we do know the ages of them now. So Egwene would be 19 at this point. So they see her as a woman now at age 19. But anyway, so like Nynaeve promises to be a little bit more careful. And then they start searching around. They realize that Elida is now the Amerlin seat. They see these portraits of Rand in the sky, and they know that she's going to try to find a way to control him. There's also another hanging who's the last Red Asha who was ever Amerlin seat, but she was also removed of her stole. So like, good job, I guess.
Yeah.
And then they read a bunch of different papers and reports, but they keep changing in their hands because like the dream world is very weird, you know? And there's been a report of suspected gathering of Blue Aja sisters, but Nynaeve can't remember where it was. They figure out that Suyana is probably dead over Rand. They continue their search and they find an arrest warrant for Moraine as well as other orders to capture and return Elaine, but they cannot find the letter referencing to the Blue Asha again. Nynaeve finds herself deferring to Egwene and suddenly realizes it's because she lied to Egwene about being drugged, and she admits it to her. Egwene still maintains her authority afterwards, and Egwene's like, I kind of knew you were doing that because you always try to put yourself in the best light. And Nynaeve is like, I don't do that. And so Egwene forces like a stinky drink on her where she's like, you used to make me drink this when you were lying. So I will make you drink this if you're lying to me. And Nynaeve's like, okay, I do put myself in the best light. Like,
right.
And they agree that Maureen or Egwene should tell Rand and Maureen about Elaida and they must find the blue Aja. And then she warns her to avoid Mogadine and she disappears. And Nynaeve was like really pissed off because she realizes like Egwene somehow got the upper hand on her.
I think it's just one of those things where she's like, okay, the rules are shifting, but I'm not okay with it.
Right. But like Egwene's coming into her own in this book. So that's good. Egwene wakes up and she's like, oh my God, I think Nynaeve would have actually drank that drink if I told her to. I have no power over her. So like where Nynaeve used to lie about her authority, now Egwene is lying about her authority. Because she's also
taken a few pages out of Nynaeve's book.
She's also not supposed to be going around Tala and Riyadh by herself either, but she's still doing it. And she's a little bit worried because she doesn't want to get caught. She still wants them to teach her. They find out that like certain clan chiefs are paralleling Rand's course, hoping that they may come in to help them. She notes that Rand is in his study with Natail because she like went, or who is Asmodean, because she went to tell him about Elaida. So then she goes in to talk to Moiraine. She realizes Moiraine is listening in on Rand's conversation. And then Egwene tells her all about the Amaryllin stuff. She also recalls various dreams like Rand sitting down in a chair, knowing that like whoever owned that would be very angry. And the owner was a woman. So random.
Yeah.
Perrin making out with Fufu with a shortcut beard because that's important.
Why do we care about this beard?
I don't know. There's two banners behind him, a red wolf and a crimson eagle. And a bright yellow coat near Perrin's shoulder, a sword strapped to his back. And she knows it's a tinker, but she doesn't know who. It's your old boyfriend. And every bit of it except the beard seemed important. Yeah, you're right.
Obviously. What kind of foreshadowing could this beard be? I don't know. Nothing. 6 more weeks of winter, probably. I don't know.
But every time the tinker moved closer to Perrin, there's like a chill of doom through everything.
Interesting.
Yeah. Matt throwing a dice with blood streaming down his face, the wide brim of his hat pulled low so she could not see his wound, while Tom Maryland put his hand into a fire to draw out a small blue stone that now dangled on Moiraine's forehead. Weird. They're putting Tom and Moiraine together. Like, if we're wrong about them making them a couple,
We're not wrong. We're not wrong.
I would be like, why is there this much foreshadowing about a relationship that doesn't happen? But anyway,
not wrong. Old people will be together.
A 40-year-old and a 70-year-old are equal, as we see from Suyeon being stilled and still with a man 10 years older than her, but still looks 30 years younger than him. But anyway, there's also a storm with great dark clouds rolling without wind or rain, while forked lightning bolts, everyone identical, rent the earth. She doesn't know how to interpret these dreams, even though like everyone's like, hey, you should probably learn how to interpret dreams.
Right.
They also discuss the new Amaryllin seat, and Moiraine like kind of remembers Suyeon. Egwene notes Blue Aja are gathering, and Nynaeve's report on the Forsaken. Moiraine tells her that she's trusting Rand because she must surrender to Saidar and like surrender to Rand if she can help him. And Egwene leaves and again realizes that she's being spoken to as an equal and no longer as a child. Yep. We cut over to Nynaeve, who's had nightmares after her experience with Egwene the night before. She updates Elaine on all she's learned. Elaine questions the wisdom of asking Brigitte to search for Mogadine. They argue about their forward plan. Nynaeve wants to continue cross-country while Elaine wants to catch a riverboat to Abu Dar, then a ship to Tyr. They agree they must go back to Tyr. Nynaeve cannot remember the name of the town where the Blue Aja are gathering. They do go downstairs where Mistress Daran serves them breakfast, and then all of a sudden, our favorite fascist appears, Galad.
Galad.
Who is
Guess who he is with? The White Cloaks.
He's with a White Cloak. And he's been promoted rapidly because he was super powerful and
hot.
And he is royalty, so it's a big get for them. Well, he's not royalty, but he's royalty adjacent. Right. But he tells them that Suyeon was stilled and executed. Gawain stayed behind, and he wants to take them to Cainlin. But Elaine is like, I'm going to think about it. And then he's like, hey, where's the queen? And they're like, yeah, no.
He's like, Gawain and I both care about her so much.
But Gawain doesn't mention it as much as I do.
I mention it more.
Elaine's like, he does everything right. So he's either going to turn us over to the White Cloaks because we're Aes Sedai in a place we're not supposed to be, or he's going to take us back to Cainlin. And we need to leave before he decides which one.
Also, she goes in like a little mini rant about how he is not my brother, not my brother, not my brother. And it's like, yes, he is.
Right. And then they all discuss escaping, and Elaine is like, you remember how Galad was, Tom? And Nynaeve was like, how? And she's like, well, Tom was my mother's lover. Sorry, I had a busted
What?
loose situation. My mother lover. It kind of sounds like your mother's your lover.
Mother boy.
But and that's when Nynaeve is like, this happens with a lot of girls where they want to like have sex with their dad, I guess. Like, I don't get what, it was so weird.
Nynaeve, no.
But then they're like, hey, let's go back to the menagerie because we could hide with the menagerie. Oh, and also
because we could join the circus.
They also dyed Elaine's hair to keep her secret, and then they saw Galad anyway. She had like
strawberry blonde hair, and now it's
black. But Elaine is like, hey, you just offended that man, so good job. But they sneak out, and then Tom notes that like white cloaks are trying to get the nations against Rand, but Elaine is like, don't worry, my mother will support Rand, even though I know nothing about her. And she
even though I know nothing about her.
She also has no regrets for escaping Galad. They find Val and Luca, and Luca's angry because of what Nynaeve did to him, because Nynaeve cannot think. Yeah. But they offer like a lot of money and to work for him by walking using the source on the tightrope where Jaiden and Elaine both do the walk, and Julian, and he's like, I really like Julian looks afraid for his life, or not, what's his name? I forget his name. Okay. Yeah. And Julian's just afraid for his life because he doesn't understand how Sidar works. And then Tom can like breathe, like swallow fire and do all these other things.
Because he's cool.
They meet the various people in the menagerie, including Sarandon, who says I forget where she says she's from, but she's Tianchen. And she lies about it because of the stigma and because of Falme. She's not Soldam, but she like is obsessed with the effect that Elaine is a high lady. And like Luca and a second person, Littell, see this. And Elaine's like, get up. And they go on to Gildan. We go over to our favorite dark friend, Leandrin. And she returns
Is she?
No. But she's staying in Jordan Areen's house, and they're rich merchants who are dark friends. And she talks about how like she beat up on this woman who winds up being Mogadine. And she asks her questions about Nynaeve, and you find out Leandrin like hates all people who are wildings, even though she had the power before. She was a wilding.
Nothing about her makes sense.
And Mogadine is like, hey, don't worry. And she was like, hey, did that guy beat you up like I asked him to when I thought you were a servant? And Mogadine's like, no, don't be an idiot, but I am going to make you suffer. And she tries to beat Mogadine. She can't. She also wonders why Mogadine was pretending to be a servant for so long, which I'm guessing it was to heal from her fight with Nynaeve.
Right.
And so Mogadine's like, guess what? We're going to hunt down Nynaeve. And she's like, good, because I hate her. Leandrin still wants to make sure that like she's in power over Mogadine, but we won't know if she is or not. It's difficult. We cut over to Morghese in her reading room, and one of her men come in whose name is Talonvor, and he's like, there's been rebellion in the Two Rivers. So she goes to complain about this to Gabriel, and Gabriel is like, I have better things to do, get out. And she's like, what? And then she looks around the room and she finds out he's like stacked the court with all people who are against her. When he dismisses her, she finds herself in her reading room and she doesn't know how she gets there. So she goes to talk to Lenny, who was like
an old
servant who was the caretaker of Elaine and Morghese and like Morghese's mom.
And they mention like she's got to have strength so she can take care of Elaine's children. Like, wait, what?
Right?
How old is this person?
Also, like Elaine always talks about her to the point where Nynaeve is like obsessed with her like wisdom stuff. It's so weird. But anyway,
she's probably wondering like, how is she able to still be alive?
Right. But anyway, Lenny is like, hey, everyone knows you're having sex with Gabriel. And Morghese is like, everyone? And she's like, yeah. And he's having sex with like 7 or 8 other women.
He's also sleeping around. So
yeah. So they bring in Talonvor, who reveals that like no one can be trusted in the kingdom because Morghese has been so out of it. And Morghese is like still fighting off the need to be controlled by him. But they sneak her out with Lenny and Talonvor to the inn where Tom used to be with Basil Gill. And they find him with another man called Lamgwyn Dorn and Brienne of Tarth from Game of Thrones.
Yes.
No, but her name is Brienne, which I thought was a Brienne. But she is only there because of Talonvor. And they're like, we'll help you find Gareth, who was her former lover. her former mother lover. Then we cut over to Pat on Fane. He's in the white tire trying to get the ruby dagger. He sets off a ward and an accepted comes in to investigate and he kills her.
Yes.
A woman comes in and binds him and he realizes she is Black Aja. He tells her of his trip to Thakandar and Shayol Ghul, and she's never been there and she's very impressed by that. And she lets him go, but she says he needs to leave. So he doesn't have time to get the Horn of Valor,
right?
Which is useless to him at this point.
I was going to say, why does everybody still obsess over this thing?
Well, I wonder if it's taken out of commission, then Matt can't sound it.
Oh.
And then they can't get people to help them. So it's still like,
okay, I guess that would make sense
if it's out of Matt's hand. But that's the only reason I can think of. Rand is headed to the Jangai Pass through the spine of the world. Couladin is gone a week, and Moiraine is now confiding in him, telling him to only trust Egwene, Elaine, and Nynaeve outside herself. Asmodean carries Rand's banner. They see like this like desolate city that's been ransacked up above a hill like years before, but then they come on to another city that was destroyed 6 days ago, and they find only 100 survivors. The Aiel do not give a crap, and they call them tree killers. But they're shocked because Couladin took non-Aiel as Gaishan, which are like warriors you make into slaves who can't touch a sword or like who can't touch a weapon during the entire time. They're like paying back for being like warriors against the other person. But Gaishan is like the way the Aiel live their life. So to take non-Aiel as Gaishan goes against everything they believe in.
Right.
So that is important because Couladin is insane. They make camp. Melindra comes up to Matt, and then Sullivan sends her on an errand, one of the wise ones. Rand goes to find Asmodean, who's playing his harp. Rand asks him about the ruins above, and Asmodean is like, that might be my hometown of Sherelle, which was a port, but like, I don't know. And then Rand channels through his Angreal and sets up wars against Shadowspawn around the entire camp. He does not need to touch the Angreal to use it. There are a ton of maidens guarding his tent. Avienda meets him there, and she tries to cancel her debt again with him with a jewel-encrusted sword. King Lamon. It's a small gift from Aiel because it is a sword. Rand accepts the blade because it's a scabbard, and I think it's heron marked as well.
It's a heron marked blade.
Yes, and he gives.
So it's very special.
But he gives the scabbard and the like jeweled hilt back to her, and she's furious because the jewels separated from the crown are a small fortune. But
like, can't you just accept this? Quick, giving me things back.
I know. Can't you just do what I ask you to? But anyway, Rand asks about a wedding because like in the wedding, there are hundreds of relatives that fight off the guy from getting to the girl. And Avienda is like, well, a woman wants a man who'll fight for her. Like, don't. And lets himself be taken Gaishan so he can be near her. It's the weirdest thing ever.
They're in love.
Yeah. Rand wonders again about Avienda's necklace, which was given to her by Egwene. Lan told him the pattern is Kandori, so it might have come from a raid up north where Rain are from. He asks her where she got it. She will not tell him. And then he wards his dreams and he goes to sleep and dreams of Avienda, Elaine, and Min. Matt is with Melindra and he keeps asking her, are you the daughter of Nine Moons? And she's like, I don't know what that means.
I don't know what you're talking about. Stop asking me.
Oh, also an important fact that I forgot. When Matt was drilled down by one of the bloodhounds, Moiraine tried to heal him first, but because of the Foxhead medallion, he couldn't.
Right.
She couldn't touch him. So they figured that like this saves him from being channeled against pretty much.
Right.
And at one point, you can tell Moiraine wants to take it from him. And Rand is like, that's Matt's. He earned it. Leave it. She's like a dog. Leave it. Leave it.
And she does it.
Yeah. And she does it because she promised fealty to him. But anyway, all of a sudden he hears the sounds of two rivers birds, which is actually very smart because that is how they say that there's an attack coming because no two rivers birds would be up here.
Right.
And so and this is the first battle where I was like, oh, I understand these battles now.
It wasn't a complete shock.
Yeah. They actually made a plan for this. That's good. There are shadow spawns who are shouting they're there because Samael sent them because that's how fighting works. Matt kills 3 Trollocs and a Fade, but he's shocked it was such a small raid. We cut over to Rand and he's like, he came out of his tent during the fight. All the maidens left him to go into battle. And then Avienda comes out being controlled by what are they called? Drakkars. And he kills it with balefire, but only a little balefire. And then Avienda like shoots something at Rand and he's like, you almost tried to kill me. I was
It
trying
was
to
the
help
fire,
you.
I think, isn't it?
Yeah, it's fire. And Rand screams at her for trying to kill him. And he was like, I was just trying to save you. You're ungrateful. And then he finds out that it was because of Jakar was behind him. We should ask more questions, guys. And Avienda goes into the tent in a huff, and Egwene comes up and she's like, how dare you? And goes and like checks on her, and Rand wonders why he did not sense the evil of the Jakar.
Mm-hmm.
Melaine goes in to check the Aiel camp, and Amis and Bear make a bet on whether she will check on her husband or her sister wife first. She just got married. Moiraine and Land arrive. Rand asks why they did not come sooner. She will not explain. The maidens return and they want Rand to like punish them for going off and leaving him. And he's like, I'm not going to do that. And then he says, go find someone else who can punish you.
I know.
And they're happy about it. This book is weird. Rand goes to Asmodean and he does not like the Drakkar. He thinks they're stupider than Trollocs. They discuss the purpose and source of the attack. Asmodean thinks it was one of the Forsaken trying to get Rand to go after Samael, but Rand is like, no, Samael's tried to bait me before, but he means when he was loose there. And Asmodean realizes this as well. And then he realizes that what Samael looks like, and he's like, he always wanted to be taller. Great plot point.
I thought that was such a weird thing too. Right. Like he's short, but he always wanted to be tall.
But he's also bitter about it. So
okay. He
goes back to the tent where the maidens give him advice on how to deal with Egwene and Avienda. I don't know. And then he goes to bed in dreams of Avienda and Samael. Egwene is riding through the Silk Path. The Isandra woman who was like dressed in nothing is now wearing this huge black cloth that makes her sweat. They find another town where everyone is killed. And Rand tells the chiefs that they can take their fifth, which is an Aiel belief that if you come upon a place, you can take a fifth of anything like of worth. But he says it can't include food, and he will hang any man who disobeys. The clan chiefs are not pleased, but they accept their orders. Avienda is annoyed that Rand now carries the sword she gave him because she's stupid. She begs Egwene to intercede for her with the wise ones to make her not have to sleep in Rand's tent anymore.
And like, I can barely hold out any longer. Please get me out of here.
And Egwene is like, she is really worried about her virtue. No, she's not, Egwene.
It's like, you don't understand.
Soralia, who is a wise one, overhears and she like yells at them for thinking they know better. And then she's disappointed that Avienda gave Rand a gift of a sword, even if she never touched the sword, because again, Aiel cannot touch swords. Avienda gave it to him in a blanket. She plans to set up Avienda with another man named Perrin, who is hot but laughs weird, I guess. That's what Avienda says for why she doesn't like him. And then Sorley is pleased that Rand is showing the clan chiefs that he's in charge and all that stuff. Cut over to Egwene later that night. She's falling asleep reading a book that Avienda gave her that she's like, I like the adventures. And Egwene is like, I like the romance. And later she's like, I bet Avienda likes the romance. They have not hit their romantic quota for the year. She goes
get a life, Chloe Brown.
She accidentally falls asleep and goes into Terra and Grial, and she thinks she sees Brigitte with Elaine, but she hides it from the wise ones who come in and they're like, you're early. And she's like, I'm sorry, I fell asleep. And they're like, we know one of the guys Sean saw you asleep, and they alerted us. Why was this conversation?
Right.
And then when she turns, Brigitte is gone. Elaine explains that she's there instead of Nynaeve because like some men came over to flirt with Nynaeve, and Littell from the camp attacked her with a stick, and Nynaeve beat her up. And like everyone got involved and all this stuff. And Egwene hints to Elaine that they should meet in the White Tower through like the weirdest thing ever. Like she's like, if I had you guys back in the room, I would give you a piece of my mind. And it's like, this isn't a hint. This is just you being very aggressive.
Right.
But Elaine gets the hint. So and they meet up in the White Tower, and she's like, hey, did I see you with Brigitte? And Elaine is like, I plead the fifth. I can't tell you. And Egwene's like, she must have promised her, because Elaine never breaks a promise, except she promised to love Rand forever. And he was the only one for her. And then she wrote him a letter saying, never mind. Elaine asks if Rand is well. Egwene says she is, but he's getting such a big head. And Elaine is like, well, he's a ruler, so maybe leave him alone. And Egwene's like, no, but you don't get it. Then Egwene is kind of talking about some of the stuff that's gone on with her and Nynaeve. And Elaine's like, well, now who sounds like they have a big head?
Right.
And she tells Egwene that she will be Amaryllis, and Elaine is queen of Andor. And they cannot destroy the White Tower, but need to get through it. Elaine tells Egwene that Mogadine is trying to find them. They warn them to be careful. And then Egwene is like, I'm going to go keep looking at papers. And all of a sudden, Galad shows up and he's like, I've been waiting for you. And all of a sudden, she's back at the Wine Spring Inn with her parents.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, oh, your husband's here. And it's Gawain. And she saw the banners of the Red Eagle and the Red Wolf. And she's like, oh, this must be Perrin's doing. But then they disappear. And all of a sudden, she has a baby with Gawain and he's kissing her. And then she's scared and she flees back into her own body out of Terra and Grial. We find out that this was done by Mogadine, who was obsessed with finding Elaine Brigitte, because Brigitte bested her one time in the past for some reason. And Nynaeve,
girl knows how to hold a grudge.
Yes. And Nynaeve, who also bested her that one time back in the past.
Mm-hmm. So she's just basically interested in them because she needs to get to Nynaeve.
Yes, exactly. So Min is entering a town that she believes to be called Salidara. She sees some viewings of the different Aes Sedai. She realizes that this is a town full of Aes Sedai and warders, blue Aes Sedai mostly.
Yes.
She sees certain readings of people like with a raven tattoo or like with glowing hair for some reason, but she doesn't know why. Logain is like pretty much mute by this point. And so Suan keeps being like, hey, did your reading on him change? And she's like, no, it hasn't.
No, he's like super bright.
Right. And she also sees Edicina, who will be like have the Eldam around her neck at one point, but will escape. They go into this house and they're like, Min, why did you lead these people here? Why is Logain here? And she's like, I didn't lead them. And then Suyan is like, I'm Suyan. And they're like, but you're so young.
Like,
and then
you don't look like her.
And then they're like, but it's her voice. And then they have this long conversation about it. And they decide it's probably her. So then they lead her to the back where they become like terrible people to this woman who was stilled. Right. And they're like, hey, you're not one of us anymore. So tell us everything you know. And then we're going to send you to a cottage where you can die. And Suyan is like, no, I'm not going to do that. And you like, Suyan is very manipulative.
Mm-hmm.
And so she's like, hey, do you know if Aldine is here? And they're like, no. And she was like, well, she was the leader of the Blue Aja Eyes and Ears, and they're like spies. And so since she's not here, I can help you. Do the Blue Aja know that the White Tower has fallen? And they're like, no. And they're like, and she's like, do you have any plans to take over the White Tower? And they're like, no. And so she kind of like worms her way into getting them to let her still be a part of everything. Mm-hmm. And she also announces that she thinks Rand is in the Aiel Waste because she's heard rumors about the Aiel being called the people of the dragon. That was part of the tier, thing. She's right. He's in the Aiel Waste. And so she says that they should send 2 people to the Aiel Waste to see him. And she decides to send a letter with one of them to Moraine because she can trust them. We also find out that Suyan is much more comfortable with lying now that she she's no longer Aes Sedai, and she tells them
she's not like under an oath.
She tells them a huge lie that Logain was set up by the Red Asha.
Yeah.
And she plans to use this as a way to get Logain to get back at them so he can get back at least the Red Aja for what happened to him. And she also gets Lyanna to suggest that someone who was not at the White Tower at the time of revolt should now become a new Amaryllis seat that they name. And she discussed this with Lyanna because she thought that if she brought it up, they wouldn't trust her, which they probably had a right to because we find out she's very suspicious. We also meet a ton of Aes Sedai who I'm not going to get into today, or probably I think we could talk about them collectively as one until they get new personalities. And then at the end of the chapter, we find out that Gareth Bryn has followed them all the way here. And they and they discuss how he is one of 5 great living captains and they could use him to help the Aes Sedai and build an army. And they send warders to fetch him, and they force Suyan to tell them why she's afraid of him. Because when he shows up, she's like, hey, you need to kill him. And they're like, yeah, we're not going to do that. Like, that sounds like a bad idea. So anyway, Gareth comes in. He notices like there's so many Aes Sedai. He realizes that he might end up not living after this. And they instead offer him to become like their champion, like
their general.
And then they tell him that Amina and Mara are Leanne and Suyan. And he was like, oh, she does kind of look like Suyan. They also give him like the women as body servants. And he gives them 3 things that they need to promise if he becomes their general, which means that he has control, he manages his men, and they will see it through to the end. So like they can't just decide that they want to go over to Elida because then he's a dead man. And so are his people. And they are all talking silently. And like Suyan comes over and yells at him because this women yell at each other all the time. And he's like, well, I told you could start paying off your stuff now. And she's like, I'm not allowed to until I step foot there. So you really just have me as like a free servant. And she thinks like he wants to like force her to have sex with him.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many random things in this. But then they accept the terms of the agreement and he vows fealty to the Aes Sedai. And then they begin planning. Min notes that there's like a huge bustle of activity with the Aes Sedai. She follows Suyan, and Suyan is already carrying Bryn's laundry. She tells Suyan about her latest viewing of Bryn, which is that she saw an aura of a bull ripping roses from its neck. And the aura means that if Suyan or Bryn stay close, they will live. If they get too far apart, they will die.
Right.
Cool beans. And this is like only the second if viewing Min has ever had.
Yeah, she doesn't like those ifs.
Yeah, she really wants to know what's going to happen. And she doesn't like that she's starting to get these more and more. Suyan is like, oh, great. I guess I'm going to die then. And she hands Min the laundry and she's like, go do this laundry. And Min blames Rand for her predicament. Thus ends chapter 28 in the fires of heaven. There's a lot going on. We do not have any Perrin in this book.
I know. I'm so sad.
Are you? I mean, we were pretty disappointed with him. Maybe we need to have absence, let the heart grow fonder.
I mean, that's fair. The last book, I did not enjoy him and Fufu, but I enjoyed him a lot when he did not have her.
That's true. Me too. I think she's going to be around for a while.
I know. Sadness.
What did you think of the first half of this book?
I actually really like it.
Me too. I'm a big fan. I thought they did well with like all the different storylines.
Right. Yeah, because there's a lot going on. There's more characters and there's just a lot of different directions that you have to pay attention to.
Guys, here's the thing. So far, huge fan of Rand. I'm liking Rand a lot more.
I know.
He's doing great things in my mind.
I know.
Didn't think it would happen, but it's here. So what you gonna do?
He's really turned a corner.
He really, really has. And good for him. Good for him for turning that corner. He's really accepted. He's coming into his own. He's very conceited, according to Egwene, but
she doesn't really understand acting, so
she doesn't understand authority very much. Like Rand has huge amounts of responsibility and authority that she just keeps like being like, he's so conceited, I just don't recognize him anymore. And it's like, okay,
I think she equates a lot of authority with like the way that Nynaeve treats her, and it's like not everybody is treating you that way.
Right. Like, and she's just like, who does Rand think he is for bossing around these clansmen? And it's like, well, he's literally called the chief of chiefs. Mm-hmm. So if he's ordering around the chiefs, it's probably because he's their chief.
Their chief.
So that doesn't.
He's not just being bossy for bossy's sake.
We'll talk about this more, but I do feel like Jordan only knows how to write one way of women with men, which is I hate you.
Yeah.
I definitely.
And he doesn't know how to do that very well.
No. I definitely heard at least 2 crossed her arms under her breasts.
Yeah.
I mean, like, could you? I'm sorry.
I don't do that
with me. Like,
it's too low.
It's far too low. That's way too low. Guys, this is not a visual medium, but Laura and I did both try to do that. And guess what? It doesn't work.
It looks awkward, just so you know.
I don't like it.
No.
I don't.
And it's uncomfortable.
No, it's very uncomfortable. Women also sniff a lot at men. Could you imagine on the TV show just someone going?
It's hard to do.
It's very hard to do. These women, I hope, aren't going to sniff. I hope that people have moved on from the sniffing of women.
It's probably scoffing.
Yeah, like, yeah, I could see a scoff or a sigh, but to like the amount of time women sniff.
Also, like, who would even recognize that? Like, oh, do you have allergies?
Right? Or just like, who wouldn't ignore it or just laugh at like, how often is this woman sniffing at me now?
Right. Like, what is happening with your nose?
I think you need to get that checked out or just like say you're mad at me, man. It's okay.
I know we don't have Zyrtec yet, but you need some.
I agree. Yeah, but so far, I'm a fan of this book. Can't wait to see where it goes.
Me too.
I do know a couple of spoilers. You're not going to be happy.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry to this woman.
Okay.
But everyone else, if you've read this book or if you're following along, please let us know. You can find us at OWWR Pod at gmail.com. You can also find us on all the social platforms at OWWR Pod. That's our pod. Please remember to rate, review, and subscribe. Rating and reviewing helps us get outreach to more individuals who enjoy this story. We've been happy to talk about the plots of these novels, and we look forward to talking about it even more next week when we discuss chapters 29 through 58.
The end.
The end. Yes, that is a better summation of that. We will be finishing up The Fires of Heaven, and we look forward to chatting with you then. Bye.
Bye.